Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode of the Draxx Life Podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. All right, we're live. It's been a festive week. It's been a fiery week.
Hello, people.
Let's just get into it, man. I'm gonna kick it to you as always.
Yes.
What's on the mind, Bobby A?
So, you know what's grinding my gears? We'll get into the fun stuff later. But Chris, how are you? First and foremost,
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good. Can't complain, dude. It's like anything else. You gotta take a break. You gotta look outside. It has been a beautiful fall.
I agree. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
I'm going to go outside for a walk in a little bit and wear shorts in November.
Yeah, it's
Halloween
been in the 80s. Nice. How about that? Yeah.
Can't complain. Yeah. I know the world's falling apart from a lot of people's perspective. Not mine.
No.
But otherwise, it's been a beautiful day.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. The weather is gorgeous. This is the perfect when it's like not late. High 70s, low 80s.
Dude, it's beautiful.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
perfect,
fantastic.
Perfect. With a nice fall breeze. Yeah, you've seen it. That's what we're in right now. It's perfect. But Halloween we'll get into. But let's just jump right into it.
Just get into the deep.
Let's get in.
The abyss.
The election. Now, we all know who won. I'm not gonna get into the policies and the details and I'm not going into that.
Yeah, let's just comment on like the response to.
Yeah. Okay. So the next day or late night, because I stayed up late night to watch the victory speech Donald Trump gave, and then Harris conceded the next day, but at I believe it was around 4:00. It was like late afternoon. But in between those times, between the victory speech and the concession speech, the meltdown that the mainstream media from all angles, probably except Fox News because they're severely pro-Trump, but they also have their own issues, which I'll touch on as well. What struck me, Chris, is a couple of things. Everyone had egg on their face that was painting Trump in a light that I don't think the Republican Party is, but maybe him as an individual, you could be repulsed by him as a person, as an individual. Once again, I'm not a political commentator. I don't want to be a pundit. So
I mean, this is just your opinion.
This is just what I believe.
Your impression.
Correct. And so you could have your animosity toward him as an individual human being. Fair play.
I mean, you could do that towards anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but what I'm saying I think as a government entity, as a party that's going to be running, because they swept everything, Chris. It
was a landslide. That means
a landslide victory.
That means a lot of people who were Democrat voted Republican.
Yeah, there's a lot of flips.
Period.
A lot of flips.
There's no way you add the numbers without people who were once voted Democrat voted Republican this time. Or I should say they didn't vote Republican, they voted anti-Democrat.
Yeah. It was more
anti-Harris.
Yeah. The latter is more. I don't even think it was the latter her or anti-her as a person.
Oh, I do. I think it was 100% that. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I disagree with that 100%. Entirely.
100%.
No, I think you're wrong there.
Because I think if Kennedy if Kennedy had run as a Democrat, they would have voted for Kennedy.
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that.
100%. So, I mean, not the ones that, the people who didn't. Yes, I think the people who were kind of like, I might vote this or that. Those people, I think, would have voted him. The diehards of either side are, obviously not.
They're already they're already captured. That's the word.
Yeah, they're in it. They ain't going to switch. But like a lot of the people who are kind of floaters on both sides, I think they would have definitely voted for him. So I think it was as much not anti-Democrat as anti-Harris. Because if you had put a Tulsi Gabbard in and she had run female Democrat, she would probably won, I think. But go ahead.
No, I don't think that's true. I
Okay.
think this might be a really good debate.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
But make your
more.
make your
Here,
earlier
let me
point.
land.
I kind of jumped in.
Let me land what I was trying to say. I think this election was more about the political parties as government entities more than it was the two people involved as the head of the ticket. You get what I'm saying?
No, I get you. And
So
I can agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. I if you hit the nail on the head when you said people voted anti-democratic party rather than I like Trump, Vance, and the Republicans. I think that's true. Now here's why. As much as no one wants to talk about this, which I do on the internet because we all know who I am.
Yeah, he's in the recent. I was on Twitter the other day. I was like, I'm trying to find you, man. Like,
can't find me.
Swinging a rooftop to rooftop, man.
Yeah,
a batarang. Go ahead.
I'm jumping off rooftops. You remember the scene in the my favorite scene in the new Batman, not Batman,
yeah,
the Batman with Pattinson, when he's coming, when those criminals are they're beating the crap out of somebody, and you can hear the boots walking from the shadows, dude, and it's raining.
That's you. Okay.
Yeah, that's me. When you hear the boots and everyone stops because the boots are echoing in the hallway, but it's dark, so you can't. Yeah, exactly.
And they're just swinging haymakers.
Yeah, exactly.
Violent.
Yeah, and he's like, well, what are you supposed to be? Vengeance. Yeah, that's the best scene in that movie.
It is. That's a good movie. I like that movie.
I like that movie too.
I thought he did a good job as Batman.
Yeah. So that's me. You're not going to find me. I'm just going to come out the shadows.
One of these days, I'm going to be an argument on Twitter, and then you're going to appear like in the threads.
That's exactly what it is.
Defending me. I'm like, there he is. Yeah. I've seen him in the wild at last.
Yeah, exactly. So here's why people don't like the Democratic Party.
And then hold on. And then I also want you to go back on the mainstream media part, because that's where you started. But go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely going to get back to that.
Okay.
We're definitely good. So the as much as they meaning the Democratic Party, I'm not singling out any person as an individual, but as a political party,
mm-hmm.
they're associated with, the perception is that the Democrats are corporate elites, wealthy donors, trust funds, manipulators. They prop up radical issues like the transgendered issue,
like cultural stuff,
like rad, but like they go all the way to the fringe, and they prop up the extreme. That's what lost them the election, because they lost sight of the working class, just the average, everyday 9-to-5 clock punching working class, lower to middle class American.
Yeah. I agree.
It had nothing to do with Harris. So why do you think it's Harris?
Well, go back. I want to go back to your first point. I want to say, I agree with what you said, because Kennedy said, I liked Kennedy. I started to follow Kennedy earlier on. He kind of came to the forefront of some things I was watching, and then I started to follow him.
Yeah, he's cool. I like him.
I like him. So he said something recently, like this is like the week leading up to the actual election, and I really liked what he said, because he's not a Republican. Like, he's a Democrat. The guy is a die-hard. Anytime he speaks, he kind of prefaces what he says. Like, his allegiance, or I should say his philosophical viewpoints have not changed. But he said something he did it like a little story. It was kind of interesting. He was like, my I think it was his great-grandparents or grandparents came to this country from Ireland to escape the potato famine. And the people who met them at the docks, were the Democratic
Ellis
Party.
Island, baby.
Yeah, and they helped them find places to live, community, work, etc. And like from that day forward, like his family had been really connected to the Democratic Party from like a philosophical perspective. Like they were the against big corporate interests, corporate greed. Were for the working class, for the working man, etc., etc. And he says it. He's like, But that party, like, it's changed so much so that the Republican Party, at least from perception, has become the party of the working person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I agree with what you're saying. I think a lot of people voted in that respect because they looked and they said, you're not really fighting for my views. Like, this is one thing. Sorry, long to get to my point.
No, keep going.
Right. Like, I was looking on Twitter, and I'm new to Twitter. Right. You're going to have to protect me at some point because I'm like, I just entered Gotham City and I'm wandering. I might take a segue down a dark alley.
Oh, I'm going to tell you right now, Chris, I've already seen you. I haven't followed you. You may not want me to follow you because I do. I know.
Well,
I got you.
My personal or the podcast.
The personal one.
Oh, okay. Fine, me, man. It's all good. I'm down for a battle.
Yeah.
But
I'm not. Yeah, I'm sorry. Keep going.
No,
I might drag you into things that you don't want to be dragged.
I might get into the heat of it too.
Yeah.
But like, one thing I'd say is that, like, when you heard about people like now responding emotionally to like this situation, you have like a lot of the quote unquote normal working class people. The things they're complaining about are very much like working class issues, like safety, security, like crime, price of living, like what things cost, being able to get a home. And then the other side, a lot of the emotional response is about like cultural issues that like don't no longer align with the working class. Like, if you're trying to figure out how to pay your bills, you really don't have an opinion on like LGBTQ issues or any number of these, like what I classify as like cultural issues, like extremes, like things you argue about once you have a full stomach.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it.
Right. And I think that the Democratic Party like lost a lot of these people. I mean, it's obvious, right? They lost like major swaths of like Black men, Hispanics. Like, these are groups that traditionally voted for them because in their mind that the Democratic Party fought for like, the working man and woman. And I think a lot of them, the bubble popped and they're like, oh yeah, actually you're not. This is a talking point. But then when we look, your policies are not about like protecting us or helping us. So it seems like the other side is. So we're going to them. And it's kind of like an indictment on that party. So like, I agree with that assessment. I think it's like 100% accurate. With the Harris specifically, I do think you have a lot.
That's
of people,
my real question.
Yeah, I think you do have people who voted against her. Mainly,
I don't think that's true. But go ahead, tell me. Yeah.
Let me see if I can formulate an argument. Again, I think there's people who just voted anti-Democrat, but I think if you had put a Kennedy in that position, he would have I don't know if he would have won, but I think he would have done battle, and the margins would have been much less. I think even they said, I could be wrong, that Biden, people still voted for Biden. I think they wrote him in. I think I could be wrong, and he got a substantial amount of votes. So like, I do think there were people who were like, just because you like, I think there's a lot of people who we could name one who like were unwilling to vote for her, but were unwilling to vote for him. Right. So they cast their vote to the ether. They wrote some random person. They wrote a baseball player's name or an actor's name or a character from like the Flintstones in. Right. Right. So that's a person that like was like, I am unwilling to vote for a Republican. So I'll vote for Batman instead of voting for Harris. Like that. I think there was a substantial amount of those people. And think about that. Like, if someone else had been there, their vote wouldn't have gone to Batman. It would have gone to that person because they're like unwilling to vote red, but they're unwilling to vote her specifically. So they voted a fictitious character. Those people, I think, would have voted Democrat if it had been a different person running. Even if Biden had run, I think that they would have voted for him.
No, I don't think that's true. I think Biden was dead in the water.
Maybe, but if a Kennedy had run, or if a Tulsi Gabbard had run, or if the governor of California had run,
Gavin Newsom,
or if they had done a primary, and I think there was a lot of people they talked about who were like really up and coming in the Democratic Party, who are smart. If they had run, not saying that they would have won, but I think that the margins would have not been as significant. But I could be wrong. I'm not a political commentator, right?
Yeah, that might be true.
But I think again, hold on a second. I think
Yeah.
also the amount of like, I don't think people see her as extremely competent. There's just enough footage of her doing things that are like not like the word salad, things like that that like people have clipped and cut up so many times that you can see montages of these things where like again, we could talk about this later too, like the idea of long form content versus the clip, the soundbite. That's like a game changer because you can't like people are going to listen to everything you say and then they're going to clip it all together and you're going to see patterns. Like literally there was like someone brought
That's fair.
I think Dave Smith brought this up, which was a good point. He said it used to be in old school politics there was it was a message discipline. Like you said the same thing everywhere you went. Like that was actually the goal. Like the goal was to stay on point, stay on message, and literally you kind of like said the same phrases everywhere. Now that doesn't look good because someone's going to clip all of your times you speak and they're going to put it all together and they're going to be like, dude, you literally are reciting a script over and over again. So you're not speaking like off the top of your head. You're not in the moment. You're
Yeah.
just reciting what someone wrote for you. And I think a lot of that stuff played against her because it showed her like, okay, we don't even know who you are. At least with Trump, for better or worse, like whether you like him or not like him, you know who he is.
You know where he stands. Yeah.
Right. It's like, or Kennedy. He was the one doing podcasts before anyone was doing podcasts. There's hours of him just talking. Like just talking. And like, hitting things like at like, all right, housing. Why is housing an issue? Oh, and then going into BlackRock, all of these corporate interests, just like spelling it out right off the top of his head, not reciting any like pre-orchestrated lines, just like boom, boom, boom. And I think like that helped one side and that hurt another side. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no apologies necessary. That was, I think that part I agree with.
Okay.
And I think that's what I want to get into in the meat of this episode is the mainstream media's coverage and just overall interpretation of what happened versus the long form conversation, which you made a good point. Mm-hmm. And RFK was kind of the pioneer for that. And what's on just a side note, the fact that this man has a trouble speaking and he's still doing that, I like that. That's very impressive. That he's like, you know what? I know people, it's gonna sound weird, or people are gonna be like, oh, like why does he sound like that? And he's still I would call it courage. He's still courageous enough to sit down and have a 4-hour conversation. I mean, come on, you gotta big that up.
And also that people are willing to listen because it's hard to listen to at times. Like it's not
I agree.
Pleasant. Yep. And that the content of what he says is of such weight that you're like, all right, I'll muscle through this. It's like listening to someone who has a lisp. Like it's difficult to listen to someone, even if you have an open heart and you're like, I want to hear you, but it hurts. It hurts to listen to.
Yeah.
But the content is of such value where you're like, all right, I'll listen past that. Like you're saying something. So yeah, I think for those listening to him and the fact that he does muscle through it is like a testament to really
it's good
what he has to say and who he is.
Yeah, I like
my
that.
opinion.
But so to counter your point, and you can counter
my
ahead,
point. Disagree with me. I mean, I disagree. I'm not an expert.
Yeah. I think anyone that the Democratic Party would have appointed, even if because people are complaining that they didn't go through a primary after Biden was removed. Let's call it spade a spade. He was removed.
He literally sent an email out on a weekend. Was like, I'm done. I'm out. That's some shady shit right there.
Yeah, but he didn't resign. He was taken out. Correct.
I agree. 100%.
So anyone that was installed as the nominee was a puppet. It didn't matter. Gavin Newsom is still a puppet of corporate interest, establishment, like Wall Street wealth. I mean, even Newsom in California is
100%.
one of the
100%.
So anyone that they would have put in there. So that's why Harris, I think Harris, yes, she has her issues because she didn't seem like she could captivate an audience in any way unless it was scripted. Unless it was scripted and it was written for. It sounds a lot like an actor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you have a point there, but I don't think anyone who voted because like, I don't trust Kamala Harris. I think that narrative is not true. I think it's more
Okay.
I don't like where this party is going and who they're in bed with.
Okay, so what if they had had a primary and people had voted and they had picked a person? You still think it would have been a landslide victory?
It
I
still
don't.
would have been a puppet for the lobbyists and
But
the wealth.
I mean, maybe. I mean, again, I think that's probably true no matter what. But literally, you had someone, not the people. I'm not a Democrat, so like
No,
I'm saying,
that
right.
is a good point.
You had someone, not the people, decide on who the candidate is going to be for the whole party. There was no, they didn't pick the best person. They just someone picked a person. And like, I do think that would have affected the race if the people of that party had picked someone, right? Because there are people within that party, I believe, I'm not an expert because again, I don't follow those politics that well, like who are more mid range, like that are not like deep woke, part of these cultural, like heads of this cultural ideology. I think there's a lot of middle of the road Democratic people who are about economics, also about helping the working class, etc.
Yes.
That if they had been selected, you're telling me that all of the people who traditionally voted Democrat would have still voted like red? I think that maybe some of them would have, but I don't think you would have seen such a massive like turning. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are just like, give me a reason to vote for you. And you didn't. You gave me no reasons. If you had given them some reasons, I don't think that the degree of smackdown would have taken place.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Right? Because I think about it, dude, there are people who literally voted for a cartoon character rather than voting for her.
Yeah. That does say a lot.
Right?
But
it's like they didn't vote red. They just said, I cannot in good conscience vote red, but I cannot in good conscience vote for the candidate of the Democratic Party. So I will literally burn my ballot. Like they could have just not gone and voted.
But that's not an indictment of Kamala Harris as a politician. That's an indictment of the Democratic Party. That's my point.
I don't, maybe. I mean, again, I think it's a hard one to determine because we're trying to like speculate on we're generalizing. I don't know. For some, it probably was, and for some, it probably wasn't.
Yeah.
Like I think, right, under any idea under the sun, right? If there's a million people who did that, we're probably both right. Some voted for one reason, some for another reason.
Yeah, there's a middle ground here.
Yeah,
where
I mean, I don't think it's like it's a zero sum game. I think there's some that were like, I don't like this person.
It's true.
And then there's some were like, the Democratic Party's not doing right. They can't get my vote.
Yeah. So, so I think that there's elements where you're right, where we're both, I think.
It's hard to determine, right? It's kind of like there's no way either of us are going to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, of course not.
Right?
Yeah.
But go back
but you know me, I'm just against special interest lobbyists, corporate wealth. That's so I'm blaming the party more for getting into bed with Wall Street.
I think you're not wrong there. I mean, dude, they tried to say
her.
Yeah, okay. They tried to say that I think I saw this on Twitter. It was like the Democratic that campaign had more billionaire backers.
It's
Again,
insane.
This is second, so someone can fact check this, but the public media was pretty much trying to say that Trump is backed by billionaire interests, Elon Musk, etc., which he was. Mm-hmm. But the Democrats had more billionaires.
Way more.
They had a larger budget. So a lot of gaslighting took place where it's like literally things you're accusing the other side of doing, you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. So like that to me is kind of like, I think you're right. Like, I think a lot of people eventually were like, they saw past that facade of like, oh, we're for the working class. And the working class is like, no, but we can see like who you're in bed with. Like, we know that that's not true. So, the bubble had popped. I think for a lot of people, the bubble popped.
Yeah, it did. And that's what I liked about this election, and that the common man and woman kind of won this election.
100%.
Not even kind of. They did win.
They did.
Yeah. So
The
the
dude,
everyday average worker won
well,
this.
How many electoral votes did he win? It was like over 300.
It was over 300. Yeah, I think
Right?
it ended on 301. I could be wrong on that.
301.
It's over 300 though.
Right?
It's
He needed two. I think he needed
270.
270. So he won 300. Another, that's crazy. 301, and then he won
another
the
couple
popular
states. Yeah.
vote by I think like an extra 4% margin.
Yeah.
He won it
Yeah.
by something like that. Dude, that's like an indictment. That means that the majority of the population of this country, for any number of reasons, said no. Like, no. This direction that if we vote in this way, the direction is going to, from our perspective, is going to go in a direction that we don't want. So we're going to vote this way because we believe, right or wrong, we'll find out, that at least if this is the person or these people, then it's going to go in the direction that we feel is in our interests. It's crazy.
Which I think that's why, to go full circle back to the beginning, that's why I think this result is good overall for the health of America.
I think so too.
The people in the middle finally had their say, and they didn't want the fringe and the celebrities and Hollywood and the bankers to select who's running the country. They finally said, we've had enough of that. We want people to care about everyday issues. I want my grocery bill is $100. Why is it $200 now?
Exactly.
Every week. That's really what it became about. So,
dude, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I mean, and I think you see that in that, like, the people who started dude, this is why I think, I mean, look at all of the people who from okay, let's start to segue into like podcasting and things like that,
which is going to be very interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Like, look at the people that I'm going to say the Trump and his party. I'm just going to say Trump, but not necessarily Trump, but like that side there, people just vote for Trump. They said, I want this direction. So anyway, right. Joe Rogan voted Democrat, I think, historically every election. I mean, at least what you can, right. He changed his view on Trump, right? Yeah. The Theo Vaughns, the Barstool guys, the Neck brothers, all the UFC in general.
Yeah. Tim Dillon too. Another
the Tim
huge
Dillons, the Shane Gillises. Like, these people are not like Republicans, right?
They were never Republicans when they were growing up.
The Tony Hinchcliffes, right? These people, right? They're not. So like to say that that Trump won because of like racism or sexism. I mean, dude, Tim Dillon is a gay guy, right?
Yeah, from New York. He's definitely Democrat.
There's tons of, I mean, you go on Twitter, right? There's a huge populations of LGBT or LGB who voted Republican, right? Like, so it's kind of like when you're winning all of these subgroups, again, Hispanics, Black men, all
Latinos were huge in this,
right? All these groups that have for 50 years voted Democrat.
Yeah,
like that is a shift.
That's a good.
Like
this is a good thing.
Massive shift. It's pretty much saying, guys, like that direction. It's not going. It's not good, right? Like, and everyone of all of these diverse groups can all agree that, like, all right, we don't agree with each other. We're different, but like that direction we can all agree on is not good. Like, that says something. So anyway, go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right about that. I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of in this election, because it's not even about the individual. Take the individuals out of it, because most politicians are slimy and do questionable things.
Dude, fair enough. You gotta fight. It's like dirty fighting, right? It's like street fighting. Like, they're all street fighters.
It's a bar brawl, exactly.
Right? They're not people that you want to like. Yeah, exactly. They got mud and chipped teeth, and we try to cover that up, but that's who they are.
Yeah, but I'm really glad that the average, to your point, which is, I think we both, that's where we meet and
I
we
think we're
both
agreeing,
agree. Yeah. Where the average American, the guy that goes to the manufacturing factory and punches in and punches out, goes home to his family, but on the way home he picks up groceries, and so that's the guy that won the election, the man
Yeah.
or woman, both of them. Yeah, that's because women,
Yes.
most women, there's, I think the majority of women in the country also voted for the Republicans.
I think they said that the majority women that were married or
Yeah.
women with kids voted in larger percentage than usual for Trump.
Yes. Yeah, it was like a,
Because
I think it was
they have
close to 60%,
families.
actually.
They have
Yeah.
families. Like a lot of these cultural things that are proponents of, like let's say the liberal Democrat. It's hard to pick what is the right word. They're not for those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually heard something. I think this was Dave Smith who said this on Joe Rogan, or maybe it was someone else that said, even, and I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but like the idea of that now that abortion is no longer at the federal level, and that literally you can go, it's decoupled to some degree from your presidential choice. You could go to the ballot and vote like more democratic policy on abortion and then vote, let's say, for Trump for president. Those two things are now decoupled, that you saw a lot of states where the people voted more liberally for abortion, but then they also voted more red for the presidential election. It gave them more options. So you saw women in some of these
Yes.
states,
Yes.
they voted Trump and then they voted a more liberal policy on abortion. So they're saying, I want my state to be this way, but I want my federal government to be this way.
That's exactly
And
right.
that was actually, it led more women to vote for Trump. If it had been coupled together, they might have voted Democrat. But that's why I'm a proponent of like state rights versus federal. Like, to me, it's decentralization versus centralization. It's like, you don't want the federal government to be making all of the choices, because then it's like, dude, our country is too diverse. You don't want them to have control of the switch, right? It's like the way I look at it. I was thinking about this leading up to our conversation today. Like, dude, when the federal government, it's like they have one switch. They can turn it on, they can turn it off, and it's going to affect everyone. No matter what, someone is going to be pissed off, and it's the law of the land. They have no options. Like, what are you going to do? Leave the country? You're going to break the law? No, most people are just going to eat it. They're going to deal with it and be unhappy. When it's set at the state level, now you have 50 switches. And no matter what, there's going to be some state that aligns with how you view reality and what you want in your life. And now you have the freedom, right? You can go get involved in state politics, which is much easier than federal politics. You can leave your state and still live in America. It gives you more variety and more options. So like, that's why when people get in these arguments, I'm like, dude, you don't want the federal government in control of everything. It's not good. You'll be happy when your guy or your girl has their hand on the switch. But that's not guaranteed that it's always going to be your person with the hand on the switch. At some point, you're going to be pissed. So that's why you don't want the federal government to be in control of everything. So like, I feel like people lose sight of that. And that to me is like very fundamental.
Yeah, no, I can't even add anything to that. That's bang on, spot on right there. So now I'm going to pose a question to you now.
Yeah,
you were 100% correct on that. That was a good rant from Chris Corvo, ladies and gentlemen. So now, what do you think of the next day when I turned on the television, I went online and I saw the reactions?
Oh,
and
man.
we had like the Dave Smith, Joe Rogan episode, is which I believe you're referring to in this, and which was good. And some of the things that we have been saying for a long time, like you can go back a couple episodes and we were talking about the same shit. So what does that say too? That means it's on people's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the coverage was, it was all very gloomy across the board, except if you went to Fox. It was very gloomy, but
that's insane too. Just think about that. Literally, if every news station, except for
one was gloomy,
which is not a good sign. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely not good. And I think it's a couple things. It's the entitlement that these people had, where when I say something, you better agree with me. And I think Dave Smith actually said that on the episode. He's like, if the the policies that I want, the if like the cultural movements that I want, you better agree with me, or if not, then you're an evil person and you have to go and you have to be silenced and humiliated. So, which is crazy. That I mean,
Yeah.
they were trying to paint him as some kind of dictator, but that's a very dictatorial type behavior. You need to agree with everything I say, or else you're going to be branded as a heretic and you're going to be publicly shamed. That's crazy. But that's what a lot of the mainstream media was doing at the end. They're like, I can't believe people decided to vote for him. This is nuts. Yeah, we just touched on all the reasons why they decided to vote for him. Because when these people go get gas, when I'm driving down Nashville, Tennessee, I'm getting gas, it's through the roof. That's why. And guess why that happened? Yeah, now you know the reason.
Yeah.
Now, however, let's get to the psychological part of it. This is what I want to ask you. I was watching all these. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm ranting. I'm going on a rant. You got to deal with it. Buckle up.
No worries.
Buckle up. The psychological part of it. I was watching all the news stations: ABC, MSNBC, CNBC, CBS. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching all of those. They were all using the same words. The Democrats have to do a lot of soul searching. This is a wake up call across everybody. Like every pundit and every interview guest they got on was using those same languages. Why? What do you think this is? Is this some kind of? It's not a coincidence that every single person that I said was like, "Oh, we got to do a lot of soul searching," and I was like, "I've heard the word soul searching 50 times in the last hour," and I was switching through the channels. Is this a directive from the? This is my question to you, Chris. Is this a directive from the head of the Democratic parties, or the heads, as like kind of an excuse or a reason? Is it an excuse or a reason? That's my question.
Yeah, so I mean, you bring up a couple of interesting points.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the beauty of like YouTube and the internet now is like, because I
You
think
could see all their reactions.
correct
There's compilations. There's
yes,
compilations.
exactly. And I think even leading up to just not even the reaction to the results, but like talking points. Like you'll see people doing these montages where it's literally, and it's almost like frame by frame, where multiple like news agencies are saying the same copy, like the same lines, the same word choices, the same descriptors, like almost at the same time, right? I don't know. I don't know, man. It's like depends on how much of a tin hat you want to put on, right? It's like, is it that way, or is it that each of these people are kind of watching the other one, and then the people writing the copy? Because again, the people who are talking on camera, they're actors. Like they don't write their own dialogue; they read from a teleprompter. So the question is like, who's writing the teleprompter copy, and like where are they getting their information from? It may just be purely copy and paste. Like they listen, oh, that's a good phrase, boom, they take it. It may be that like the press offices in the White House or these different agencies are kind of like disseminating phraseology copy that can be used. I think that's like the big thing now. It's like, and I think this is kind of like, not to use a bad phrase, but cockroaches when the lights get turned on, right? Like a lot of these mainstream media outlets, I think they're just seeing their own demise, and I don't think they can. They're trying to like scrape and hold on to like their last
hanging on by a thread. Yeah,
because I think a lot of people I think to me this like consider all of the things that have been said about Trump and just say Trump, right? Who's kind of an umbrella of many different things, right? all of the things they've said, and they've said heinous shit, right? Like stuff that's like at this point we don't even what's on the news. It's not even fact checked. It's just like we throw garbage at each other. It's like, Trump, he pulled a machine gun and killed 50 people. Like, and someone would, it's like heinous stuff, and it's because the news cycle is so quick. Like you can just say shit, and then maybe it like a mind virus pops into someone's head. By the next day, we're not gonna talk about it anymore, and there's no one gonna like say, "Hey, like, could you prove what you just said yesterday?" So I think the point, though, what I'm trying to make is that it's not working anymore.
It doesn't work yet
because for 4 years you've said all these things,
yes,
and then the people didn't listen because they voted in just mass for the exact opposite of what you've been saying. Like, think about this for a second. I think it's accurate to say that Fox is the only quote unquote conservative news outlet that's on cable television. Is that wrong? I think that's accurate.
It's the only mainstream conservative.
Yeah, I mean, something on cable. If you have a cable television, I think it's the only channel that's going to have outspoken conservative news. Right? That means the majority, and because Fox News is considered like, it's almost like an insult that you watch Fox. Most people are probably not watching Fox. Like, a huge portion of the people who voted red probably don't watch Fox. They're watching MSNBC, CNN, any of these other ones. And think about what they've been hearing for the last 4 years. And even though they heard it for the last 4 years, when it came down to Tuesday, they voted for Trump. So either like they're not really paying attention, or they've decided that no, what you're saying is not true anymore. And the bubble has popped, and people are kind of seeing a lot of the news for what it is, like propagandists. And they're just saying that we no longer, maybe we'll watch you for entertainment, but like we no longer trust implicitly what you say.
Yep. Which is, it's for profit propaganda. That's what it is.
It is.
So I think it validates the feelings that you and I have had about just the coverage of, like you said, cable news networks and even network television as well. Many things they say are scripted and manufactured by the big companies that own them. So they are actors. They're not. They call themselves political pundits, but they're actors. They're being told what to say and when to say it.
Correct.
And they do it as a career because it's very lucrative. But for many of them, it is. For some, it's not.
I mean, you're on TV, like you're making money. Like, let's be honest. Like no one who's on TV is making less than 6 figures a year.
Yeah, true. Exactly. You're right. And you're being controlled. You can't say anything that's not part of what the true authority and decision makers want to push out.
Correct.
So now that segues perfectly into my next question to you. This is why, and I think you mentioned it briefly, the podcast circuit, and someone, what's her name? She's on the middle ground station, News Nation. News Nation is good. That's where Chris Cuomo is on now, where it's both sides. It's not pro Democrat or Republican. It kind of goes straight down the middle, which is the only one
that's good.
Which is good, yeah. And her name is Marky Martin, and I was like, hey, that's a hilarious name because I immediately think of Marky Mark, Mark Wahlberg, baby. Remember his rap name?
Yeah.
Her name is Marky Martin, and she called it. You know what actually helped the Republican Party? When J.D. Vance, Elon, and Donald Trump went on she called it the Cool Kids podcast circuit. So Barstool, Theo Von, Tim Dillon, and Joe Rogan. Those were the 4 she mentioned. And that's a funny term. I like that. She called it the Cool Kids podcast circuit. That helped, and because it was, like you said, the 3 to 4 hour podcast. And remember what Elon said: you you find out who someone really is when you've been talking to them for 3 hours.
Yeah,
He said that in the third
Yeah.
hour. What do you think? Because I know you have a theory on this, which I actually like. But
yeah. I mean, let me see if I can. Yeah, no, I think this is a pivotal. This is a shift.
It's a shift. That's the word.
Completely. I don't think we'll ever go back. Right? Like, because here's the thing. I think people got an opportunity. I said this. I think we were texting. Like, I don't think there's been a time in history, maybe in like early days, right? Because but the people who got like, so I don't think there's ever been a time in history where you've had this much FaceTime where people are just talking, like non-scripted. Like, all right, Trump, you want to run for office? Like, all right, let's talk. Like, what are you gonna do? What's the thing? And like, you're just gonna sit for 3 hours and you're gonna have to talk about things and like have to express yourself. And you know, at a certain point, you don't have 3 hours of script memorized.
Exactly.
You're going to have a
That's
conversation and talk and think and admit when you don't know something. Like, I thought that JD Vance did a good job. Like, I particularly didn't know him well. And I saw him on Theo Vaughn. I saw him on Joe Rogan. I saw him in a couple other places. And I was like, all right, dude, like, you're having to duck and weave. I can see your personality. And I think that's like going to be a game changer. Like, going forward, this is going to be the default setting, which I think is a net positive for everyone. Like, it's going to change the type of person who can run for politics, can run for office, especially for the highest offices. You're not going to be able to like have a nice smile and be handsome and say catchphrases. It's just not going to play. The appetite has changed. The demand has changed from the people. You're going to have to go and sit and talk to someone for 3 hours. It's going to be the default. The next election, everyone is going to emulate this. The podcast circuit is just going to increase in number, right? And you're going to have to like go through the paces. It's not going to be easy anymore because, again, even if you have a nice, like, Joe Rogan is not trying to stump you. Right? Theo Vaughn was not trying to stump you.
There's like, no gotcha moments.
Correct. Yeah. It's just like the fact of it's more difficult to hide and be deceptive for 3 hours.
It's impossible. You can't
now,
do it.
There will be sociopaths that can do it. But like,
yeah, but that's crazy.
Right? Again, like, I'm not just saying that the honest people are going to get into politics. It is just the game is going to change where people are going to get it. Not before you get elected, I can watch 9 hours of you sitting down talking. And I can like kind of get a sense, okay, again, you might be a sociopath. You might just have that ability, but it's going to be different. And I think up until today, you could get away with sound bites. Like all politics was the sound bite, right? Like, I have questions that I've already preloaded answers to. The interviewers are going to ask those questions usually, and I'm going to give you these pre-scripted answers. And it's not going to fly anymore. So I think that's a net positive for everyone. The fact that Kamala Harris did not do the interview with Joe Rogan says something about her and her capacities, in my opinion.
So that's an excellent point because I have insider knowledge. I can't reveal the source. The whispers. It's Lord Varys has just appeared.
See, you got the birds and the spiders.
the birds. Yes, a little birdie, multiple birdies have told me that she reached out. I think even Joe admitted this, but I know I can tell you about the other podcasts, specifically Barstool. They've told me that she reached out to like 4 of the biggest podcasts at Barstool. Her campaign, not her personally, her
PR people,
her management team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. However, they all 4 of them said no, just like Joe Rogan said no, just like Tim Dillon and Theo Vaughn all declined because her PR team wanted a script of questions, and they wanted to keep the length short, and if it went over, they wanted to control the length of it. And once that leaked out, that had an impact. So to your point, that even adds to your point of how in the future, when you're campaigning as a politician, you're going to have to do sit down, unedited, not taped. We're gonna go live and we're gonna talk for 3 hours. You're gonna
Yeah,
have to do that.
and it's gonna be like off the cuff. Like I'm not gonna tell you what we're talking about.
No questions predetermined. Exactly.
Yeah, and at the game, like again, I think because she had time to do the joke, even after Trump decided he did it. Like she could have called that night and said, I'm gonna fly out. Like let's be honest, these things are not. You have the money, you can take it. You could take. You're in the U.S. It's not like you're in another country. Like you could take a flight. It's gonna take an hour and be there. You could probably take a private jet and be in Austin.
Yeah, she
and ready
definitely
to
has a
go.
private jet.
It's not hard, right? So
Can she use Air Force One? I think she can.
maybe she can.
I
right?
believe vice presidents can.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if since she's doing it as part of a campaign, I don't know if there's like a rule. It's like you can't be campaigning using.
Maybe that's true.
But anyway, you have 81 billionaires behind you. Like getting a private jet, someone to loan
it
you
won't be
is
hard.
not-
Won't be
yeah.
hard.
So I literally, I think the fact that she was unwilling to do it, like it's not like the ability to do it was removed from her. It wasn't like Joe Rogan said, you or Tim Dillon or any of these people, we refuse to let you on our podcast.
No, it was
Right?
the opposite, actually.
They said the door is open to you anytime, but you're going to do it the way everyone does it. Like, and this is how we do it. We do it here. It's going to be, a couple hours, maybe less, right? Not all of them go that long, but like, it's not going to be scripted. It's not, you're not going to have your PR team in the room with you. Like you don't have control, period. Like it's going to be like everyone else does it. And that she said no, or her people said
Yes,
no,
that's
or
what I'm
didn't
saying.
acquiesce to that. It says something to me about like it says it. It's like I think me not doing it will make me look better than doing it. And that's a scary thought if you think about it. Because Trump did not put the bar that high. When I listened to the Trump interview on Joe Rogan, I didn't say this guy is amazing and she can't. There's no way she can outdo this talk. This dude, he didn't set the bar that high. He rambled, he wandered. The bar was really low. So the fact that she watched that and was like, I'm not going to do that, says something. It means that even though the bar was so low, it appeared to her and her team that not doing it was better. If JD Vance had did it first, I would have said, no, dog, don't do it after him. Because he was articulate. He spoke well. He's comfortable. He's personable. The bar is high. Dude, Trump was horrible. Like, to me, he was horrible. He was wandering, couldn't answer a question. He was, what's the first day like?
What did he call
it? He's talking about Abe Lincoln. I'm like, dude, this is not good. So that tells me something. Like, you telling me, her team, that you couldn't do better than that. And that's a scary thing. So that's my point. Like, in the future, you're not going to be able to hide. You're going to have to be yourself. And people are going to be more easily able to weed out who you are and if they want you to represent them.
Yeah, no, yeah. He called it weaving. He weaves a lot.
He weaved. Dude, did you listen to that? He was
all
over the place. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about, bro? Like, come on, man.
But
Joe Rogan's giving you softballs. He's just like lobbing them up at you. And you're like so used to, you're like someone in jail who's like got out of jail and he's been used to fighting all the time. He just can't let his guard down and just like answer the question. Like, what was it like the first day? Well, it's like it's hard. I'm scared. I'm nervous.
So, but I all of those are that's pure facts. But where you and I disagree is with Harris. I think if there was any other candidate in the Democratic Party, they would have behaved the same way. It wasn't her personally turning it down. It was the management team saying, don't do this. You got to keep it to 45 minutes. We have to have control over the questions. They would have done that for anyone.
No, I disagree completely.
And with her, yes, maybe that's not the best form for her to express herself. But I think if she were to sit down for 3 hours and just have a conversation about anything other than politics, she would be fine. But
I mean,
I think they would have restricted the candidate no matter who it was. I think that's our difference right there.
Maybe, but I mean, I think if that was your talent, why would you tell someone to put away their talent, right? It's like leverage. It's like an MMA fight. If you're like the best striker in the world, your team is not going to say, yeah, don't strike. They're going to say,
No,
no,
that's
lean
true.
into what you're good at. So obviously, if that was something she was very good at, talking, being personable, right? They definitely. Why would you set aside a tool, right? Because essentially, they are. I mean, I think it's beyond a reasonable doubt at this point that people of both sides, people who analyze this stuff, saw that like doing those long form interviews, especially Joe Rogan, because of the amount of views, was a net positive. Like it didn't take days for them to figure that out. They knew that it was a net positive. 70 million people viewed that podcast in like 24 hours. Like
Yeah.
so like those people are like social media people. They know like what views represent. And they knew that she would get the same amount of views. She's going to get the same amount of views because it's like it's someone running for president. They decided that those views were not worth it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that was a like you said, a tactical choice.
Yeah.
But a tactical choice knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the person that they are representing and helping to run. If
Yeah.
that was her strength, 100%, they would have said 70 million views. Hell yeah. You want to talk for 3 hours? Get her ass in there. Let's go. They knew that would not help her. It'd be like if Biden, right? You saw the Biden debate.
Mm-hmm.
If Biden had been running and he could have done 3 hours, they would not have put him there for the same reason. Because the 3 hours can make you or they can break you. If you have a good, strong feeling they're going to break you, you're going to say, nah, we're not doing this. If they know it's going to help, they already know no matter what, you're getting the 70 million views. So they're going to say, oh, hell yeah, let's do this. This is free marketing, essentially.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Like, think about that. How much does 70 million views cost if you were trying to, like, get them on your own? Millions of dollars.
Yeah, higher.
It would have cost them no money, $0, and only 3 hours worth of time.
But it can also be, like you said, it could break you as well.
Correct. No matter what, the 70 million, you'll get the 70 million views, but it may hurt you a lot. But so to me, I think that says something, not just about her specifically.
Right, but that's yes, I think she does have her shortcomings, but I think the major overall problem, which was what ultimately decided the election, is no matter who the candidate was, no matter who it was from the high end individuals of the Democratic Party, you put them on Joe Rogan for 3 hours, the Democratic Party would have been exposed as an entity. That's my whole point. You see what I'm trying to say?
I mean, maybe. I think there's definitely things. It'd be hard because you'd have to fight. It's like because who came on later? I think he's the governor of Pennsylvania. I think he was
Shapiro.
Was that it? No, who?
His name?
Who's the guy?
His name is Shapiro. Governor Shapiro from Pennsylvania.
Okay, maybe it was not the governor then. It was like a senator. Who was It was the second to last person on Joe Rogan. Who was a Democratic? I think he's a senator. Spellman. Hold on,
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, if you can. Like, so I know Elon was last.
Fetterman.
Yeah, that's the guy. So who is he? Is he a senator?
He's the senator from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the governor.
So, think about it though. The Democratic Party, I would imagine, sent him. He represents the Democratic Party. He's speaking on their behalf. I would almost venture a guess that someone asked him to do that.
Yes, but it's not the same as Waltz or Harris going on there.
Correct, but I guess my point is that they saw. Well, I was making 2 points. One, they sent someone. They sent a proxy essentially, right? Because they realized they thought he would do a good job conveying the talking points they wanted conveyed, right? So they saw the power in Joe Rogan. They said, we're not going to send Harris because it's going to hurt us. We're going to send this guy in. Essentially, it's kind of like we're trying to leverage the power and mitigate any of the downside, right? So we're sending a proxy. But the one thing to your point I would say is that he was kind of forced to answer questions about not just him, but like his party. And you're right. Like she would have had to have done that, or anyone would have to do that. Like they talked about immigration. I think they talked about COVID, right? And it's unfortunately anyone who goes as a Democrat is going to he's going to ask them questions about their party. So you're right. Like that's tough. You're going to have to answer questions that don't even are about you, but are about the kind of the whole party that you're a part of. And not everyone's going to be able to fight that battle. That's a tough battle. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's. I think we can land the point here.
we're
I
going.
think we're good. This has been good. A spirited debate. It's an hour. Yeah, we're going good.
Dude, it's interesting. We'll see. I mean, hey, we'll see what happens in the next 4 years. Like, it'll be very interesting to see. I'm excited. I guess let's end it with this. What is one thing that you are actually excited about?
Yeah, this is a good point. But then I want to talk about Halloween quickly.
Okay.
After this, so let's end on a high note. And so what I am excited is the rise of the common man. I'm going to use that theme. It's the rise of the average American, which is I think is hugely beneficial and healthy, not just for the country but for the world at large.
Yeah. So, boom. I like that.
That's my summary of this election. I think that's what it actually says. That I always go back to this example. What Jonathan Pryce, the High Sparrow in Game of Thrones, when he's talking to Cersei. So Cersei is basically the power, the authority, and Jonathan Pryce says, "What happens when the many get fed up with the few?" It's not really. There's nothing really you could do about that. Doesn't matter how much control you have, how much power. When the common everyday person realizes that they outnumber everyone else, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I think that's what this election was. But what are your final thoughts?
I mean, I'll just put I think two things. One, I think I'm excited to see Bobby Kennedy with some power.
Yeah, he's going to get a position. Yeah.
And I think that, like, if he does what I just look forward to him being unleashed.
He will be. What do you think he'll be?
Like a rabid animal, and he's just unleashed to, like, go into find corruption specifically around food and drug.
Yeah. He's definitely getting appointed to some big position.
Dude, he said something, and I thought it was, like, very interesting, and it was just that. Take it however you want to say it. But he said, for the last 19 years, because these are like the things, Nate, the environment, health of the population, and via food and drug are like his areas, right? So environment, food, drug. And he said, for the last 19 years, I've been praying that God would give me the ability to fight to make Americans healthy again.
Uh-huh.
And in a sense, believe it or not, right, this is just like his interpretation. He has now been given that opportunity potentially. So I hope, like, he actually is able to do the things he says he does.
He lives up to the word. Yeah,
might be awesome, right? For someone who's actually in there to try to, like, shake things up and remove all of the corporate interests, all of the people making money, and the common men, common women, the common person, like, being taken advantage of. So that's what I kind of look forward to.
I'm also I like that too. I think he's gonna I would give him. I'm pretty sure Trump is going to give him a high position. He'll have some power for sure.
I think it's already been established at this point, but I don't know. But anyway, all right. So that's our interpretation of the week's events.
It was a big week. It was a big week in America. Historic, dare I say.
Really? I think historic is accurate.
Yeah.
All right. Give me your Halloween.
So first of all, what's your Halloween? What did you do on Halloween?
Oh, dude, my Halloween was nothing. I didn't do anything. I lived vicariously through you, probably.
Yeah. So
I had a couple pieces of candy.
Yeah, I did. I'm off the added sugar for years, as we know, but I did eat some candy on Halloween. You have to. Why wouldn't you?
Of course, man. Of course.
I haven't had 100 grand bar in about 15 years.
That's the best, man.
Dude, that thing is delicious, man.
Yeah.
You wonder why people get addicted to this shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, too good, man.
Yeah, it's too good. But the bite-sized one, I was like, this thing is banging.
But how many bite-sized ones did you have?
Just one.
Okay.
But it was it was wrapped up they had like the Halloween, like the spider net bowls. It was adorable, like a good decoration. They were all in the place. They were all in like spider net bowls, and I was like, I got $100,000. I haven't seen this in ages. But wait, hold on, Chris. There's someone at the door. Hold on.
No.
Oh God.
Yeah, dude. A good piece of candy is a thing of beauty. It's kind of crazy. I was thinking back to when I was a young buck, and we'd go trick or treating. There was a day where people gave out candy bars. Think about that for a second. A full candy bar. Think about the person who had to go buy that. They buy like 50 candy bars, and that's insane. But yeah, it's while we wait for the Bobby A, dude, it is interesting, man. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things are brewing. But I look outside my window and I just see a beautiful sunny day, and I gotta think that things are looking up. The world hopefully is going in a positive direction, and yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like, dude, at the end of the day, you gotta wake up and like. Doesn't really, to some degree, doesn't matter, right? It's like you wake up, there's things you got to take care of, things you got to do, and shit, it's like that is the common man's plight, right? The powers that be will change, but at the end of the day, you still got to like work, you still got to like try to take care of your family, and yeah, I mean that's
now we're back. We're back.
All right.
So someone is coming to fix something now. Like, why don't they tell me these things? So now the people, like, a heads up would be nice. Come on.
Like, I'm recording here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so just to land Halloween quick, I like that party because I love a good like scary costume, because a lot of costumes now are, I'm gonna be Taylor Swift for Halloween.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm gonna be pop culture figures.
That's ridiculous.
This one was witches, werewolves, vampires, monsters. Yeah. That's Halloween for me. You know what I'm saying? Even though I was Howard Hughes. That's
ridiculous. I like it.
Yeah, I was Howard Hughes in a warehouse of monsters.
Dude, who was the girl? She was. I know who that is. Isn't that the Kissing Bandit?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's hilarious. That you must love this person, because like that's something that you're a sports fan, baseball fan. That's like classic historic baseball history right there.
Yeah, exactly. That was a great costume. It actually blew my mind. That's why I didn't really want to ask her when you asked me before. I just wanted to see it.
Yeah, like, surprise.
Going fresh. Yeah. So
well, that's I would imagine that costume is something desirable to
see. And let's just have it right. She fits that costume, you know what I'm saying?
Fills that costume well.
Yeah, she fits.
That's fine.
Exactly. So you know who I'm talking about. Yeah,
I do. No, I
fits that costume well.
Anyone who's listening to this, give it a look. Look
it
up.
Look
Kissing
up
Bandit.
The Kissing Bandit.
You'll understand the subtext here.
Yeah. All right, we can wind her down now.
All right, ladies and gents, this was another episode of the Draxx Life. Hope everyone is well, and we will talk to you again next week.
Salute. Peace.